Well, I don't know if I'm broadcasting. I suspect I am. I have no idea. So I'm going to try and see if I can find myself on YouTube. Yeah, but just in the vague, just in the vague chance that I'm actually broadcasting, in the very rare chance that there's anyone actually listening or playing back on this. I got a little bit further with my setup, but it's not good. My camera's there. I connected my GoPro, and the thing is, I have a little alcove, and it's just chaos really. To be quite honest, I've got another camera which I could possibly use, but because the GoPro, I set it to standard mode because it's the the the, the the streaming, the webcam clearly operates under its own sort of wide angle lens, so it catches all the sort of the things as below a staircase. And of course, YouTube won't load now on my other screen. So I'm just going to start and hopefully it's recording. I'm trying to talk about the fall of Syria. So that's the sort of this game here. Right, so if I click this, quickly move over here. Because I'm streaming it, nothing wants to work. So we're talking about the fall of Syria. I made some notes, but it's all very difficult. But I'll sort of go through it. Obviously, I set the map up. Now, this is one of the key things about Warblog is that you get a map. And that's what differentiates me from any other idiot that talks a lot of nonsense on the internet. But these new formats, this is my second webcast, so to speak. So obviously it's just chaos, really, because I still don't know whether I'm actually recording. It sort of seems to indicate that I might be. It's the big button for stop streaming is there, but I just can't get it to show up. I mean, it's just sort of not doing anything, so I can't see before I could. So anyway, so you get a big map, and obviously here's Syria, you can see, and in particular we got down here the Golan Heights because I got it a bit off center really because we should really have some Israeli units coming in about the 7th of December, and obviously there's Turkey up here, so you can see this sort of border line here, and then you've got Iraq down here, the Jordanian border here, the Lebanon border here. So you can see sort of key places. And we'll go into play mode. It'd be nice if anyway. So we're into play mode, and in play mode, obviously, I'm also sitting in not my normal position. To be quite honest, it's a lot harder than I thought it would be. Oh, here comes YouTube. So hopefully the sound won't play. But obviously we can go for map mode, which is what I'm going to do now. And so what you've got there, I can't see the CPU usage either now. What you've got there is obviously Aleppo. So we've got date stamps here. I'm not sure when Manjib falls. So you've got the red border here, which delineates the sort of the rebel-held territories. Now, I'm not sure whether there is actually a red border in there, but it sort of goes along there. And then you've got the it actually goes along this. I think it's the Euphrates. I haven't put it in there, but so they hold Al Tapqa there on the sort of the western side of the Euphrates, and obviously Araka on the eastern side, and most of the eastern side. So this is all really held by the to be quite honest, I don't know. I think it's the Kurds in mainly, and then the Syrian rebels were sort of mostly up here. but they also had a sort of certain presence down here near Al Tanf. Al Tanf is basically where the American base still is. So you've got a mix of units across Syria, which was the product of essentially the end of the Syrian civil war. Not that it actually ended, but the stalemate. After they actually took Aleppo, which took absolutely months, if not years, to retake. Street to street fighting with heavy Russian air power. It pretty much ground to a halt. There was a bit of, I can remember quite a lot of effort. I can't remember what this road is, but it's a obviously it's a big red motorway. But that was a big battlefield. So taking that took a lot of time, and essentially towards the end of it all, they were sort of looking to take Idlib, but they never did. So I set up a game, and you can look in the archives. The battle for Idlib, which never actually happened. So it sort of ground to a halt and it stopped. And I think, to be quite honest, I haven't really got that far. And I'm only doing this because it's now getting to be ancient history. So I've got to do. I want to sort of do more of these blogs or these webcasts with web streams. I think I've got my face more in focus, but the light and the green screen, and I've gone to a bit of effort, but it's still not very good. But essentially, I thought I just throw caution to the wind and just do it. So I know I'm not as fluent. I should be, and my premise is to make some notes, and I've got notes, so you can't say I didn't try. But essentially, the key things with the whole thing, I mean, the key things to sort of remember, it sort of pretty much started on the 27th of November, but it didn't really start then. It started, well, obviously a lot earlier. But on the 25th of November, the SDF were attacking certain places. I've got got a hint of YouTube over here. I mean, at this rate, I'm never gonna see whether I'm live or not. I've got a happy candle day there because obviously that's how they do it. From my other channel, it says you've had four somethings gone around the sun 4 times or something like that. I don't know. The year, so it'll be 4 years with the other channel, which is sort of taking a bit of time out of this one. But essentially, it starts off on about the 25th and 27th of November. Let's say that on the 25th, the SDF units. So let's see if we can get some FDF units. Now it's strange, really. So these are pretty much Syrian Defence Forces or YPG, the sort of Kurds, and to be quite honest, until I haven't really prepared as much as I should, because I'm pretty sure that they sort of hold most of this, and this is where a lot of the oil fields are, and this is pretty much um, what Syria really sort of wanted back. And I think that they were bombing this sort of area, and they're bombing around here. They were firing artillery into these sorts of areas, and so essentially these were attacking Turkish backed. Now this is again, I was thinking, which side of Turkey on? I can't remember, so I don't know. But obviously that's a sort of a schoolboy no-brainer. I should know. I mean, they were pretty much against the Kurds, but they were not supporting the Assad regime. And I think I think they were sort of supporting the rebels. So these were sort of what you got is these units, the Syrian Defence Forces, and YPG, whatever, KPP, or whatever you want to sort of define their source as, fighting the Turkish-backed rebels. So I've got them in there, but obviously they can't fight the Turkish-backed rebels because Manjiv's in the way with these Syrian forces. So, but we can sort of look at that, and that's something that happened on the 25th. And obviously there's a lot happening before then, but on the 27th of November, you start to get the Syrian Operations Group, what's it called, the Military Operations Command, which I read Wikipedia. You can't say I'm stupid. The yeah, its CPU is like about 0%. Um, so flicking through the Wikipedia will probably be very optimistic at this stage. But so essentially, the rebels basically start to attack, and they take out on the 27th and 28th. I'm really not going to hit any notes on that here. They start attacking villages around Aleppo and places around Aleppo, and there's actually quite a lot of bloodshed. I mean, I think in total the Syrian armed forces lost around 300 people, so it's not big battles, but that's still that's still loss of life and quite significant, really. I think it's worth sort of bearing in mind. I think there's a general consensus that the Syrian armed forces gave up and put up no resistance, but they did to some extent. I think it was a bit sort of uneven, but I don't think there was any concerted effort. I think there was sort of probably a lot of people sort of holding their ground in isolated pockets, not aware that most people had got the memo to run away. And to some extent, the initial battle into Aleppo was slightly bloodier, but I haven't even looked into that, so I'm not going to pretend that I'm talking from a degree of expertise. This is just a general overview. So they start attacking around here. So there's basically skirmishes around here. Obviously, we can't zoom in between the what we got here, Syrian National Army, which is part of the Syrian Operations Group, Military Operations Command. And so there's lots of this battle, and obviously, actually, to be quite honest, I'm sort of getting that a bit topsy turvy because the central player in this is Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. I can never say this, HTS. So let's call them HTS. It's a lot easier to say. And so they're all in here. So they're in this part of Idlib Governorate. Now, obviously, I've been dealing with this for years, and I know all the names, and this is what I'm trying to get myself into, is actually being a little more fluent. So I have actually prepared, as I sort of intimated, but a lot of it comes from sort of memory, and I've got vague memories. I mean, I know all of these. I've done so many battles, hundreds of scenarios from Syria, and I can't remember where anything is. But a lot of these places, the names, I remember the Palmyra, I remember the Araka, the Deir Zor, all these sort of, battles and, areas of operation, etc. The road down here, Aleppo, etc., etc. So, I've got all the pieces somewhere in my brain, but I'm just jumping in here to get it done. So, I mean, for example, we can maybe sort of attack some of these Syrian forces. Let's at least do something. So, there's a little infantry unit. I want to make it nice and easy and attack with 2. Because 5-1 odds, so we eliminated that unit, but they ran away. Well, or did they? I think we eliminated them. It said eliminated. So there we go. So they're basically attacking units around here, but they actually then go into, and this is quite important to know, really. These are insurgent units, and here we have some irregulars. Let's sort of start moving around. So we're coming out of the Idlib governorate that they control into Syrian territory, taking villages and things like that. So there's, you can see there's sort of some advances. So they're basically fighting around the Aleppo area. And on the 29th, they enter Aleppo. So if we sort of, because we're not really playing in earnest at all really here at the moment, let's just end that turn. I'm still looking for YouTube to load up there. And I'm going to skip the Syrian turn just because we're just using this as symbolic reference, really, because this is just a major strategic event. It's not a little battle. It's sort of herds of militants sweeping majestically across the plains type stuff. So anyway, after their sort of initial skirmishes around Aleppo for 2 days, on 29th they actually enter Aleppo, and I think this is the thing that sort of was telling. So we got these insurgents, which are not irregulars, just for people maybe that are wondering what the hell I'm talking about. Insurgents are sort of, these are people, basically what these are here to do. It's waking up. I can switch my account now to this account, and then go to my channel. Insurgents are, but basically, so what they did when they entered Aleppo, they entered in true form, starting off with two suicide bombs, which is what you might do if you're expecting no resistance. But of course, to some extent, the reason I'm not so much focusing on that, but these people gave their lives up. Obviously, there were other people died anyway, but they didn't have to. They could have just sort of asked them to run away, and they probably would have. So anyway, we'll go in there with these suicide bombs. So we're going to attack that unit. 96 capture roll. Insurgent's action failed but was not caught. Okay. So here's the other insurgent. So this is the second car bomb. I don't know how successful these car bombs were, but suicide bombs. But we're reflecting that. So insurgent action succeeded. So basically, we caused 3 depressions on that unit. So they basically went in there, and when the other one failed, these ones did quite spectacular damage, relatively speaking. So that puts the defence forces of Aleppo down to 70% efficiency. But obviously, this is really just a representation of what was going on. So we're not really trying to sort of model it perfectly. So we're really just talking about what happened between the 29th and they pretty much take it. I mean, by the 30th, they'd taken it. My notes don't say exactly when they took it, but they went in and there was no resistance. Basically, obviously, some people died. So let's just send everyone in. I mean, it's just one little unit, but so we eliminate them. So what then happens is obviously they take Aleppo. Now the thing to bear in mind is that Aleppo took months, if not years, to retake from the rebels when the Syrian army held it. And essentially the HTS commanders said that they were surprised. I think everyone was surprised. I mean, everyone was surprised. It was just sort of, that's it. I mean, I think a lot of people think that it was agreed that there would be a transition of power, and I don't think that this force could have done what they did without there being some sort of agreement that there was going to be no resistance, that the Syrian army would stand down and they wouldn't fight. They're probably tired of war, and I mean, to be quite honest, I thought about it, but I haven't really thought too much about it. But it just seems to me that it's all very convenient regarding the situation in Israel and the fact that Trump is now, he's not even in power yet. But I think it's something to do with, what Trump is doing. And there's probably some sort of negotiation because the head of the Hayat Sham HTS was sort of like, within a few days on the BBC wearing a suit talking about how fantastic things are, and they still are. I mean, as far as I'm aware, but they certainly were at the time a registered terrorist organisation, and the next thing they're on the BBC, and you would have thought that they had some kind of advance sort of planning for that. They were sort of, they knew what was going to happen, and they're all following some sort of tentative agreed script. That's the way I see it. But with Trump somewhere influencing that. I think one of the things to bear in mind as well is, and I haven't really sort of done much about this, but oh yeah, these are now, because we're on turn two, these are Israeli armoured units. Now, they don't actually come in until the 7th of December. Um, that's basically at the end. But what the Israelis do, and I thought I had a different colour for the Israelis, but green, I don't know, they're green, I suppose. I thought I had blue and white ones. But that's what I got in my counter tray, so to speak. Um, they start blowing up just about every significant military or thing that you can find. So I haven't actually included any Israeli air units or missile systems. But I put an asset there. So this is a ground asset that you can blow up. And so there are all sorts of things like this around. And if I'd gone through a bit more, if I could put, identified where all these naval bases, air bases, army bases that the Israelis struck were. But what I wanted to know was when the who are these? Oh, I know. Yeah, those are the Iraqis, the Iranians. I'll have to move those later, and they come in the script. So I take so basically Israel is part of this sort of scenario, and they do start blowing things up. And it did strike me what I wanted to know was when they started doing that, because otherwise it could be considered that they were part of the offensive operation against Syria, in that they were blowing up all the military bases, and that would have had a big impact on how the Syrian army behaved. If Israel was playing a major role in the air attacks and the air bombardment on strategic bases and things. So, and I mean, I haven't got uh, Assad in there. But apparently he made an agreement with Israel for safe conduct to Russia, selling lots of things. But that's sort of quite kind of irrelevant, really. Obviously, it was a big surprise. So anyway, they take Aleppo there, and that sort of happens in 2 days. So they did in 2 days what took nearly 2 years for the Syrians with Russian support to do. I probably need a better computer. One thing I could possibly do is restart my browser because that takes up a lot of CPU. So anyway, they take that. So let's see what we got here. So on the 30th of November, which is when they've taken Aleppo, they start moving into Hama. So we got the suicide bombs. We got the Russian, the Russian airstrikes. So they start moving down here into Hama, which is around here because there is Hama. So Hama governor, I don't know where it is. It's sort of around here. So then they start coming south. Bear in mind at the same time there are forces down here, and there are also forces along here. And to be quite honest, I don't think I've put them in here because they come from Araka and Al Tabqa. So I should really maybe start it. But I can't stop the stream, and I don't think you can pause the stream, can you? I don't think I'm going to do that. So obviously it shows how unprepared I am really. Oh, we've got some here. No, these are Syrian units. So obviously I haven't got any units over here. So they start coming along from this section down to Resafa, etc., etc. So we've got a couple of units. I think we've got 2 FSA units, but we really need more units down here. So anyway, so let's just move these ones down. We'll get rid of these. These can go back into Idlib because we don't need the suicide bombers anymore. So coming down into Idlib. Basically pushing the Syrian forces back, but the Syrian forces are not resisting really. So still got movement. Oh no, he's in defensive terrain. Well, it would appear they've only got one movement, which means I've probably messed up on that. So they won't be able to move anywhere. So we'll have to use the Syrian turn to run away. Let's just attack these units just for the hell of it. Okay, so we beat them there. I will update the scenario afterwards, so if you want to have a look at it and tinker around, basically putting some other units in these areas here, etc., and making these units so they can move. So anyway, we're pushing them down here. So they're basically attacking south, but they weren't really coming up against any resistance. So that's that. So we'll end that turn. One thing that did happen that is relatively significant is that the Russians start using their air power. So they basically they blow up a couple of bridges. So we can see that there is air, so there is, the Russians are trying to stop this. Well, I'm looking at my YouTube page and it says I'm live. I have no idea what's happening, but we've just blown up some HTS units with the Russian air power. So the Russians were trying to do things, in particular blowing up bridges to slow them down. And I think, there's this stupid cloud flare thing. I put that in there to stop all the robots from making up on my bandwidth. But because it's a browser game, it's a bit frustrating. But that's how it is. So it doesn't destroy the game. So anyway, but the Russians were trying to slow them down, and the fact that they were trying to slow them down is just indicative of the speed. It's like free fall. That they just went from it, and I was thinking it would probably take you. I mean, it started on the 27th of November, it was over by the 7th of December. So it's like 10 days. I mean, it might take you 10 days to drive that way. They went as fast as they could possibly drive. Now, obviously, they wouldn't. They could probably drive this distance in 2 days. I don't know what the mileage is, but it's not. It's quite significant. It probably, 10 days you could probably do it. You might even be able to walk it or something. I don't know really how far it is, but needless to say, the speed that they went is incredible. So the Russians had airstrikes 3rd of December. They're approaching the Hama governor. Russian airstrikes. So opposition capture multiple towns, villages around Hama. So that's around this area. So get rid of that. It always pops up. No, we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to do that. Oh no, he's got some movement. Right. Oh, miracles. Let's see if we can push these people out. As I said, I did sort of rush it, and I just wanted to get it done so that, because I actually want to sort of move on to other things. 2-1 in exchange, so they're not very good, but at least they got an exchange there. Clearly, I haven't put enough units on to make it interesting. But so they're moving around, taking these places. So the 3rd of December, the 4th, and the 5th of December, they're sort of moving south. We'll leave them there, taking villages and places around Hammer. And then so let's actually end that turn, because there's a few things that I want to do. So the Syrians basically ran away. So Al-Bab was hard fought for in this instance. They start running away from there. They just leave Palmyra. They start heading back to Damascus. It's because my browser's so slow. Just sort of trying to click all this streaming stuff. I think that'll do for that. Obviously, we got Russian airstrikes. We won't bother with any more of that. I mean, we know what that means. I don't want to risk losing any of these few units that I actually have. So I end that turn. So basically, on the 5th of December, they just enter Hammer. They enter Salamia as well, which is down here. Uncontested. I gather there's virtually no resistance entering Hammer. So as you can see, there's this sort of general, and they have to take Aleppo first because it has symbolic value for the rebels. They say once they can get Aleppo, they'll have the full weight of of northern Syria to then sort of bear down on Damascus. So you can see this sort of swathe of rebel units, opposition units, the Syrian operations group heading south, so through Hammer and then Homs under there. Just check that is Homs. So they take Homs on the 5th of December as well. So we can maybe start moving further south. Let's see if we can take Homs. No, there's some fighting at Homs. It doesn't say they take it without fighting. However, so that's an exchange. We'll move on to the next turn. So obviously the Syrians are just running away. So what you can sort of pick up here is obviously, as much as anything, is it takes time to do all this stuff. It's taking days just to sort of move south. Although there's absolutely no sort of scale on this, and we're just going to go straight through Palmyra. I'm not even going to bother trying to hold it. So they're all sort of going south in order to sort of defend Damascus. So they're just leaving Homs. We'll move these Free Syrian Army units. I'm not sure when they come in just yet, or whether I've missed them. But they, around about now, they're starting to enter here. Oh no, they're the rebels. So we're in the turn. So now on to the sort of the 6th of December. So as you can see, on the 5th, they took Homs. We'll leave those people in Hammer there. And I can't quite remember. I don't think I've actually made a note of when these people come in. So we're just going to assume that they're coming in now. They're also taking, on the 6th of December, they're also taking Sueda, which is down here. So it is sort of these units to take that. But because we don't have any units, we're going to use these to go and take Palmyra, but obviously we're not going to get there. So on the 6th of December, Sueda goes. So does Palmyra, so we should have moved these units a bit before. As I said, I should have had more units. Note the US Special Forces in Al Tanf. They've been there since the beginning almost, and for some reason they've not left. And strangely enough, the Syrians never dislodged them. It seemed odd, but Deir Zor also fell on the 6th. I've tried to put date stamps as to when they fell, so you've just got to use your imagination that Deir Zor is, but they take everything. Basically, I mean, the whole point here is it's almost going at the speed of movement. There's no resistance. Nothing's taking days or weeks to capture. It's just all falling. So we'll sort of, what have we got here? Well, we can take this place, I guess. Let's help him move forward, or help him run away. Okay, 5-1 DE. So he's run away. So he fled into the Lebanon. Look. Okay, he's a fresh unit, so let's just. So there's more fighting going on here than maybe there was, but we're just using what we've got. So again, we've pushed them back. So it's all going sort of according to plan, really. No any more movement, So again, things start to sort of not so much take shape, but you start thinking, well, every time you have an engagement, it's going to slow things down because they use up all the resources. They've got to regroup. He's lost all his movement now. He's basically down at 1.1, so he can possibly move a little bit closer. As can he. He's got no movement, you see, because he's engaged. So we can possibly push these units out, but he's not depressed in any way. And he's not depressed. So we'll end that turn on the 6th of December. So we're now pretty much onto the 6th of December. I mean, as it happens, you could almost press not. It starts on 27th of November, so it's not quite one day a turn. But what we've got in here are the Iranian units. They start to withdraw from Damascus. So they're running away. So again, we've got all these units, Russian units. There were some standoffs between Russian units. Some Russian soldiers were killed in a small skirmish. But they had Iranian units in there. So you've got to sort of ask yourself, why didn't the combined efforts of Iran, Russia, and Syria thwart what could have been easily contained in its initial stages around Aleppo. Um, because they had superior intelligence, presumably satellites, aerial, surveillance. Russia's experience with these sorts of things. They could easily have used loitering munitions to just pick these units off as they drove along the roads. They would have had to have used the roads, the motorways, and none of that happened. It's just free fall all the way down here. We've got these Russian units. We're not going to bother using them. So again, all this would have gone. Apologies, I didn't put the units in there. So it's the Syrian. It's the rebels' turn. Okay. So running away. And they're going to leave. They're basically just going to run away, leaving Damascus open. So we're coming back here. I'm going to use this as the last one. The fall of Damascus. Israel enter Quintera. So Israel they're moving in there now. I should have given them a bit more of a delay on that. But because I don't have Israel in there, I could have maybe called that Israel, but it's really northern part of Jordan. This is actually the Golan Heights, and so they've moved in there. But they've also, I think, taken a little more ground here, sort of like a buffer zone. So Israel has really gained on this. The fall of Syria has been, it's quite a significant game changer. So they move into Damascus basically unopposed. They move into Sueda a bit late. Move into Palmyra, and quite possibly along the freeway get into Deir Zor. And obviously these little places here. Obviously these little units could have been doing a little more. Coming south, moving into Al Bab. We haven't been moving those. So we can sort of give them a little engagement down here. Now what I haven't done really is gone any further with what's happened after. It's what I want to do. I enjoy doing it. I think, oh, there's the news. And then I think, well, my brain doesn't work very well anymore. And it's all very difficult. It's all quite complex. But I think I'm going to, so anyway, it's just that we got an exchange there. So they weren't doing very well. They I've just got this little tiny space to sort of stick my head in if I sit up too much because the camera's only about a foot away from my face. I spent quite a lot of money on this setup. A light, green screen. I had to paint these hexes on my wallpaper. That was expensive. So they didn't take out these Syrian units, but basically that was it. So they went down there. All these places have been taken. The Syrian army just collapsed. And what they're currently doing, what I read somewhere today, was that the rebel units are disbanding a lot of the smaller units and creating a unity government. The other thing I would add is that the Alawites are sort of in Latakia and around this area. The Alawites are essentially, and I really don't know much about this. I'd be guessing if I used the word Ba'athist. But there's the two opposing sort of factions in Syria, and the Assad regime, who's basically Assad's family are sort of, got to be careful, they are sort of Alawite. That's their background, which is a cultural It's a class of people, and they are basically from Latakia. And I haven't read anything directly, but essentially they are the people that you would expect that the Hayat al-Sham rebels or opposition forces would be um, killing. But I don't think we're hearing much about that on the BBC because they're trying to present them having been a humane organisation. But it all smells like some sort of organised sort of overthrow, organised transition of power. Um, I think maybe the Syrians didn't put up any resistance because they are tired of war. They're tired of people having their properties blown up and people dying, and they just thought, well, you can attack us, you can continue the war, or we can just let you have the country. And peace, it's a bit like in Afghanistan, which is a bit ironic, really, because I read today that Afghanistan's declared war on Pakistan. They haven't declared war. This is not the headline I read. When I read it in earnest, that there's some border skirmishes, and I sort of think, oh, this is what I want to cover, but in a more professional manner with my blog, the what do you call it, the war blog show, without sort of, with being a little more formal with my notes, notes. So I got an agenda as opposed to just sort of playing it because I used to play the game. You can't really. This isn't a game you can play. So what I've tried to do here is to just sort of show you a map of Syria to show the sort of the general dynamics of Aleppo, down to Hama, down to Homs, into Damascus. At the same time, there was this sort of Al Raqqa, Al Tabak, through to Rasafa, Deir Zor, all this sort of stuff falling, and where they were coming from. Where's Al Jabba, Al Jala? They were, they came across to Al Jala. You can look at it up in. I mean, Wikipedia seems to be quite comprehensive. It's certainly where I got all my information about an hour ago. I did make a small set of notes over a week ago. That was my notes for a week ago, and then I got no further. So I did this in the half hour before I did my show. It is preparation. It gave me some structure, and obviously I had to create all the units. So I these are the Syrian National Army units that come from the sort of northern area, the Hayat Sham. Then you've got the Syrian Democratic Forces over here, the Free Syrian Army units. You've got these Al-Quds units, Iranian Revolutionary Guard units, who sort of run away. You've got the Israelis, you've got the Americans, you've got the Kurds, you've got Turkish-backed units, you've got Turkey along here. Maybe I could put some Turkish units in there because they also came in, and because they have a lot of problems with the YPG and the PPK, and they've got a little border zone, a strip, one hex strip to sort of, keep the PPK out of Turkey. So they came in and took some ground as well, and I haven't included those units. So I might go back and add a few more units, but this is actually quite an unusual map in that it's a strategic map that's really designed to just give you an overview of what actually happened, with all the key sort of areas. So Latakia is key because that's the Alawite sort of area. Obviously Palmyra falls on the 6th. You've got the dates, Al Bab on the 29th, Aleppo on the 29th, Homs on the 5th, etc. So you can look at this, and I mean, obviously I can maybe update it to include other units, and to include maybe some other events in there. But I'll leave it at that because I don't want to just sort of go on and on. This is my more blog show, so it's my new format. You get to see me, and I quite like that. But I think that's sort of, but it's all very new for me, because it's sort of quite uncomfortable really because I can't move. I've got this green screen right behind me, and because I'm in a little alcove, so really I need to sort of get a big desk or something and a big sort of permanent setup, and for that I'd need a sort of dedicated laptop with the extra screens, and I don't have the space for anything like that. But I do want to sort of do things, do other things, I do want to sort of speed things up. I haven't forgotten about Warblog, but I've been just so busy with other things, and my brain is just full. I think my brain doesn't work as well as it used to. I'm good at certain things, but so this is actually quite complicated. I did the Kursk thing as part of the first one, but there is also the obviously the Afghanistan-Pakistan border conflict or situation at the moment. So I think I might sort of at least try while the iron is hot to at least cover that as a scenario. And then I think some things like that would be a lot simpler for me to write my sort of plan on, so I can do a proper show. And I think as the show goes forward, and so instead of just saying, "Oh, I'm just going to play this battle" and just moving the counters around, and I enjoyed that. I've got hundreds of videos you can look on YouTube. But I think that these are designed. This new show will be designed to actually maybe give a bit more insight into, say, what's happening, and to follow current events. But I'm certainly not going to be on the ball. I'm not going to be one of these channels that's sort of like. I was looking at some of these other people, and they live stream like 3 hours, and they do that every day, and it's I'm not going to be doing that. But I'm going to be doing it more than sort of this was August all the way to December. I did nothing, and I was thinking, I wasn't, but I missed out loads of stuff like all the incursions into the Lebanon. I looked at that and I thought, where did they go? It's not really sort of. I don't know what they did in Lebanon. I don't even know how far they got in there, but that's something that I haven't done. Then I'll have to do it. But I think the big thing that I really want to get into is the Myanmar conflict, because no one's covering that. It seems to be really quite dynamic, and so I think that I can wet my teeth on that a little, because if no one else is doing it, then I can't really sort of start looking like an idiot because I don't really know what's happening, because no one's got a clue. Whereas in something like the fall of Syria, it's a little more specific, especially things like Kursk. I did mention in this that the North Koreans were present, and apparently they were in quite large numbers. So I will be sort of trying to cover, obviously things as they happen, and plus obviously all the other areas like Sudan. To be quite honest, I can't even remember where it is, but the African situation, which is I saw it the other day, called the Forgotten Conflict. Well, I did the first day of it about 2 years ago, and I've done nothing on it since. So hopefully what I'm going to try and do is to up the ante, but I've got to get this sort of live streaming thing sorted out so that I can do it with a little more confidence. I'm using my GoPro at the moment. I've got this OBIS in there, but obviously my computer's going a bit slow. It's still saying live on there. It's still saying, it's still giving me the indication that I'm streaming. My audio should be better. I did actually have a proper setup, and I've got a what's this? It's a Podcast Pro or whatever. It's English-made microphone, which I've been using for other things. So that's got like a sort of clever. It goes into a Focusrite preamp. So hopefully you should be able to hear me, because I think in the last one it was a bit quiet. I seem to think that the last one I had, the jaggedness around me, it was really jagged, and I think that was because I'm still doing the same thing. I'm still cutting out. I think actually I got it on greens. I think I've got it on green screen mode now, as opposed to just cutting out the background on OBIS. But basically, I've got to get this sort of set up. And the thing is, I've got to take the green screen down afterwards. So I've got to know where things need to go, and that's going to every time I'm going to have to set things up. So I mean, there's a very, very small chance that I might be able to set up a permanent studio, but no, that's not going to happen. I just work at my desk, so that's going to be a limiting factor. But yeah, I mean, basically, I'm going to start doing more, and because I was, I mean, I get the same feeling time and time again, but as sort of one scenario, as time goes on, and I haven't done anything in August, I haven't done anything in September, I haven't done anything in October. Oh, I know I was busy, I was doing this and that, I was doing other things. You start to sort of realize, well, I'm sitting on this massive asset. It's not as though, I think I'm going to go and become a political commentator on modern warfare and global conflicts. I've already got the background and the pedigree on that. Whether or not I have the ability to present it as a show, it doesn't matter. I don't care really. But I do want to sort of think, oh, I'm going to actually really take this to the next level, and start making notes. But it's not as simple as it sounds. So I don't want to dwell too much on that, but hopefully I'll be able to sort of cover things as they occur. There's a very very small chance that I might actually a very small chance that I might actually, after this, and having maybe viewed it on YouTube, maybe I will have a look at the Afghanistan-Pakistan situation and make some notes. And if I find that it's incredibly simple, I'll then create another live show, number 3, to explain to you what's happening after I've read. Because I'm not an expert, really. All I do is I think the secret to these sorts of things. I was looking at someone else, sort of a political commentator. I mean, it's a degree of fluency and understanding, so you've sort of got an idea. So you know Palmyra, you know Al-Bab, you know Homs, you know where Aleppo is. You've got the general vague idea of where things are. They're not totally alien to you, but putting it together in a fluent script, you know the units like the Free Syrian Army, I can't I can't remember them without looking at them. But none of these things are totally alien to me. So we've got the Syrian National Army, the Hayat al-Sham insurgents, Syrian Democratic Forces, the Iranian Revolutionary Guards. And if you can start saying them fluently, it actually sounds as though you know what you're talking about, but you don't really. You just made some notes. You just sort of prepared yourself, and I think it makes a big difference. I think that's what a lot of people are doing. They're doing some sort of pre-groundwork and then sort of talking about it. But after a while, it sort of should become a little more fluent, and that's what I'm going to sort of try and do. So it's a combination of actually trying to work on presentation in that way. But anyway, as I said, I'm going to have another look depending on how this goes, because I don't even know if I'm live streaming. I might be talking to myself, or I don't even know how long it's gone because it's too small on the screen. I've got it on my little laptop there, and I can't see the time. I can't see anything. So, but I'm guessing it's been a while now because I talk forever. But one nice thing about streaming is you don't then have to sort of prepare it and then upload it, because before, when I was using Screen-O-Matic, you'd have to sort of prepare it, and then you then have to go and upload it, and that's all it's just done now. On the live streaming, it's easy peasy. Anyway, so I might get on and do this one, and I might do another live stream if I can be bothered, after this one. But if not, I'm certainly going to try and keep it, keep some momentum on this, because I think it's going to be fun. Okay, I'll leave it there, and I'll press the stop streaming button now, and I'll speak to you later. Cheerio.